How can we avoid sleep paralysis, especially if we're trying to perform lucid dreaming induction techniques? Hey guys, welcome back to the Lucid Dream Clinic, the series where I answer your questions from the comments and I make responses to them, and this is the second episode of the series, and today I'm going to be talking about sleep paralysis. So, Richard here asks, how do I lucid dream without having sleep paralysis? Well, firstly, we have to understand what sleep paralysis actually is. So basically, when you fall asleep, you're actually dreaming, and when you're dreaming, you're running around, jumping around, doing all sorts of things. And the thing is, when you do that, you're sending off a lot of the same signals as if you were doing that in the real world. So, naturally, you would think that if someone is running around in a dream or whatever, they would start running around in the real world. The reason that this doesn't happen is because your body has a safety mechanism where it basically paralyzes all of your limbs while you're asleep. This prevents you from acting out your dreams and getting yourself into some serious trouble because you were, running into your wall or something while you were dreaming. This form of paralysis is known as REM atonia, and naturally it happens during REM sleep, which is where you're actually dreaming, where your lucid dreams occur. This is also why a lot of people are afraid that they're going to have sleep paralysis if they're lucid dreaming, because naturally to lucid dream you have to actually perform methods in REM sleep, and it's during REM sleep that sleep paralysis can also occur. So what's the difference between sleep paralysis itself and this REM atonia, this actual paralysis that happens? Well, sleep paralysis, when we talk about it, doesn't normally just refer to the actual paralyzing itself. It normally refers to when we actually wake up with REM atonia still being in effect. Now, when this happens, you wake up, you can open your eyes and you can see around you in the room, but you can't move. Now, this is often accompanied by hallucinations, usually of a very unpleasant nature. A lot of people would argue that this is actually where we get a lot of these experiences of, say, alien abductions and stuff like that, that these happen during sleep paralysis, because you have this kind of sense that there is some kind of intruder, some kind of evil presence in the room with you a lot of the time. Often you can actually see it if you have your eyes open and don't keep them closed. You can hear some pretty creepy things like gunshots, screams, like demonic voices and all sorts. Now, the current scientific theory on this is that basically your brain is in a hyperactive state when it wakes up during REM, and it creates this kind of danger response. So basically your body and your brain both think that you're in serious danger the moment you wake up in sleep paralysis. Now, being that you're still somewhat in the dream state and you're still, prone to actually hallucinating and seeing things like you would in a dream, this naturally sends the direction of those hallucinations in an unpleasant direction, a more nightmarish tone than a normal dream, because you're panicking and your body thinks you're in danger. This also explains that kind of sense that there is some kind of intruder there. Like, you'll notice if you have sleep paralysis a lot, that a lot of the time, even if you've got your eyes closed, you kind of feel like there's something there with you and you kind of feel scared. So what do we do about this? How do we actually prevent this from happening? So unfortunately, there is no 100% cure that will completely stop you from ever getting sleep paralysis your entire life. You likely are going to experience it at least once. So first of all, I'm going to explain some ways that you can reduce the chances of that happening, and then I'm going to explain what to do if it happens anyway. So, first of all, it seems like there is a link between sleep paralysis and people who have very erratic, unnatural sleep patterns. So if you're going to sleep at a different time every single day, waking up at a different time, sleeping for different lengths, then this can mess with your sleep cycles. And so this could mean that you spend, an extra amount of time in REM, for example, which could heighten your chances of actually waking up in sleep paralysis. The other thing is, when you have an erratic sleep schedule, it's more likely that you're going to wake up in the middle of the night. And if you do wake up, you get jolted awake while you're in REM, then you could wake up in sleep paralysis. Related to this, certain substances and medications can make this more likely. For me personally, I've encountered sleep paralysis sometimes after drinking alcohol. And in general, any substance, whether it's, a prescription medication or some drug or whatever, if you take something that is going to be affecting your sleep cycles, there is probably a chance that it can increase your likelihood of getting sleep paralysis. So If you're experiencing sleep paralysis on a regular basis and you know that you're also taking a particular medication or something, you might want to see if there's a potential link there. Now, another thing that you can do is simply not sleep on your back. It very much appears that sleep paralysis is more likely to happen while you're laying on your back. Now, this doesn't rule it out happening in other positions. It does happen in other positions. I've experienced it in other positions myself, but I will agree with this that when you're lying on your back, it's much easier for you to end up in sleep paralysis. Now, if you're perhaps trying to perform an out-of-body exit for something like astral projection, then this can be great. You want to lie on your back because you actually want to use sleep paralysis as the kind of middle ground where you start the process of performing the exit technique. But if you're just looking to sleep, or you're looking to lucid dream or whatever, then you don't need to be in this position lying on your back. You see, this is a common misconception about lucid dreaming. A lot of people give the advice that you should lay on your back when you're trying to lucid dream. I honestly don't know where this advice originated. Possibly it originated from people using methods that did involve going through sleep paralysis, like Wild can sometimes do. But in my experience, you do not need to lay on your back to lucid dream, and it doesn't help you in any way. I normally sleep on my side, and I find it very easy to lucid dream. I've never had any issues with it. So if you're worried about sleep paralysis, that's the first thing that you can do. Sleep on your side instead of on your back. Now the next thing, and this applies particularly to lucid dreaming. So there are several different lucid dreaming techniques out there, and they all go about inducing a lucid dream in a different way. Now, some of these lucid dreaming techniques do have a high chance of causing sleep paralysis simply because they try to take you directly into a dream from your waking state. Such methods include Wild or the wake-induced lucid dream, Filed or the finger-induced lucid dream, and so on. Now, with these methods, because you are directly trying to transition right into the dream, often sleep paralysis can occur while you're performing the method. So, if you do want to avoid sleep paralysis and reduce your chances of getting it, then perhaps those are not the methods for you. So what do I suggest instead? Well, for one, the simple mantra method where you set an alarm to wake you up in REM and then you perform a mantra and go back to sleep is one of the easiest methods to use, one of the methods that I've used the most over my 7 years of, controlled lucid dreaming. And with that method, you are not going directly into a dream. You perform a mantra and then you go back to sleep normally. You do not try to go directly into a lucid dream. You just go back to sleep, and because you are repeating the mantra, your brain remembers that and makes you aware in your next dream. Now, with this method, your chances of sleep paralysis are no more than they are just going to sleep normally in REM. And honestly, I have never, in my 7 years of doing it, I have never once encountered sleep paralysis performing this method. And I performed it hundreds of times with great success, but I've never had sleep paralysis doing it. Now, I've had sleep paralysis doing Wild, had it doing Filed, I've even had it doing SSILD and several other techniques. I've had sleep paralysis just normally while I was going to sleep, but I've never had it performing the mantra method. So that would be my suggestion to you if you want to lucid dream without sleep paralysis. Obviously, this doesn't guarantee that you won't have sleep paralysis. You can have sleep paralysis just going to sleep normally. You don't even have to be trying to be lucid dreaming. So even with a method like this that, doesn't increase your chances of getting it, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get it. So, obviously, knowing that we can't completely avoid sleep paralysis and can only reduce the chances of getting it, what do we do if we actually get it? It's always good to be prepared and to know what to do if you end up in that situation yourself. So, my first piece of advice is not to open your eyes. You see, you can hallucinate things during the sleep paralysis process, and for that reason, since those are often quite scary hallucinations, you want to limit what hallucinations you can get. Now, you can't plug your ears and stop yourself from hearing things, but you can close your eyes and stop yourself from seeing anything. So just keep your eyes closed throughout. The next thing is simply to get comfortable with the fact that it is just sleep paralysis and you cannot be hurt. You're not in any danger. It's just an experience, just like a nightmare. In fact, after you've experienced sleep paralysis a certain amount of times, it stops being quite so scary. Like, it's still an uncomfortable experience for me when I go through sleep paralysis, but it used to be something that was really terrifying for me. And now it's just like, oh, this is happening again. This isn't too pleasant, but oh well. So yeah, you will get used to it as well if you do happen to be performing, say, Wild or out-of-body exits or anything like that that has a high chance of causing sleep paralysis. Then, after you've had it so many times, it kind of just loses the scariness. And yeah, just by realizing that you can't actually get hurt during that experience really helps take away some of the scariness. Now, the next thing that I suggest trying to do is just trying to move your fingers or your toes. You see, you can't move your body very much, but you can sort of move your fingers and toes just a little bit. Like, you can move certain parts of your body, like you can blink and stuff like that. And by causing a little movement, it's almost like you're kind of thawing out the ice. It's like by causing a little movement, your body becomes slightly less paralyzed. So after like a few seconds of doing that, you should start to feel the paralysis starting to lift. And after that, you can just stop moving. You don't actually have to continue doing it, but just stop and wait with your eyes closed. And usually, like, anywhere between like 5 and 25 seconds later, you will be out of sleep paralysis. Usually it is fairly short-lived. The trick is to do some small movement with your fingers or toes. Even if you can't actually move them, just try to move them. And that trying basically signals that you're actually going to be waking up out of sleep paralysis. You see, in fact, this is a problem for many people who do try to do, say, out-of-body exit experiences and astral project. Then they're often in their sleep paralysis and they make the mistake of moving. This is something that I do a lot of the time when I'm trying to do an out-of-body exit, is I make the mistake that when I'm in sleep paralysis, I try to move to get out of it. Now the thing is, once you've tried to move in sleep paralysis, it pretty much guarantees that you are going to actually wake up out of it very soon. It's like the experience has been scheduled to end the moment that you've tried to move. Whereas if you stay perfectly still, you can stay in sleep paralysis pretty much indefinitely, if you like. Obviously not indefinitely, but you know, as long as the REM period lasts, you can stay there for quite a while if you stay perfectly still, don't move whatsoever. But the minute that you actually move, even the slightest, or even just try to move, that guarantees that you're going to be waking up out of it very soon. So that's the next thing to do, just move a little bit. Now finally, since I've mentioned it several times in this video, if you are interested in out-of-body experiences, astral projection, then I do recommend checking out my guide on how to astral project, because it actually involves using sleep paralysis. So if you find that you're someone that gets sleep paralysis a lot and you actually want to turn it into something useful, then you can learn how to do this technique and you can actually have out-of-body experiences, and sleep paralysis can stop being something that you dread but actually something you look forward to, as it gives you that opportunity. So anyway, just in summary, to avoid sleep paralysis, try not to sleep on your back, keep a regular healthy sleep pattern, and be careful of what medications and substances that you're consuming close to bedtime. As well as that, if you are practicing lucid dreaming, what I suggest doing is performing the mantra method, where you set an alarm for 6 hours after you go to sleep, you wake up, you repeat a mantra like "I will be lucid in my next dream," and then you go back to sleep. No direct transition into the dream. Now, of course, avoid methods like wild and filed if you are afraid of sleep paralysis and you don't want to actually experience that. Now, if you do actually get sleep paralysis itself, then keep your eyes closed, try to move your fingers and toes a little bit and just wait it out. And remember that you are completely safe and nothing can harm you. And if you do get it on a regular basis and you want to get something out of it, then learn how to astral project and you can make use of that sleep paralysis and turn it into a useful tool. So anyway, that's been all for this video. Thank you, Richard, for your question. If you like this video and you want to know more about lucid dreaming and you want your lucid dreaming questions answered, then you can ask them down in the comments below, and remember to subscribe to be up to date on the series. If you liked the video, leave a thumbs up, and if you have any questions for the next episode, leave them down below. Also, if you want to keep watching, check out the video that's linked on screen. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.